My name is Job, and this is my story. Have you ever wondered why bad things happen to good people? Today, we are diving into one of the most intriguing and profound stories in human history, the saga of Job. Imagine losing everything you love and still keeping your faith. This is not just an ancient tale. It's an emotional journey that challenges our deepest beliefs. Discover the mysteries of Job, a man who faced the unimaginable and yet remained steadfast. Stay with us and see how this millennia-old story still resonates powerfully in our lives today. In this biblical story from the book of Job, we encounter a wealthy man named Job who lived in a region called Uzi. He had a large family and vast herds. Job was a man of integrity and righteousness, dedicated to leading a moral life and maintaining a disciplined relationship with God. In the land of Uzi, there lived a man named Job. He was blameless and upright. He feared God and shunned evil. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters, 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, 500 donkeys, and a large number of servants. He was considered the greatest man among all the people of the East. Job's children would hold feasts in their homes on their birthdays, inviting their 3 sisters to eat and drink with them. After a period of celebration, Job would perform a purification ritual for them. Early in the morning, he would offer a burnt sacrifice for each of them, thinking, "Perhaps my children have sinned and cursed God in their hearts." This was Job's regular practice, as described in the first chapter, verses 1 to 5. God highlighted Job's virtues to Satan, but Satan argued that Job was righteous only because God had abundantly blessed him. One day, the angels came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan was among them. The Lord asked Satan, "Where have you come from?" Satan replied, "From roaming throughout the earth, going back and forth on it." Then the Lord said to Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him, blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil." Satan replied, "Does Job fear God for nothing? Have you not put a hedge around him and his household and everything he has? You have blessed the work of his hands so that his flocks and herds are spread throughout the land." These dialogues between God and Satan are narrated in the book of Job, chapter 1, verses 6 to 10. Satan challenged God, saying that if he were allowed to inflict suffering on Job, Job would curse God. God permitted Satan to torment Job to test this claim, but forbade him from taking Job's life. "But now stretch out your hand and strike everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face," said Satan. The Lord replied, "Very well, then everything he has is in your power, but on the man himself do not lay a finger." So Satan left the presence of the Lord. These events are described in the book of Job, chapter 1, verses 11 and 12. Job received 4 devastating pieces of news in a single day, learning that his sheep, servants, and 10 children had died due to raiders, thieves, or natural disasters. One day, while Job's sons and daughters were feasting and drinking wine at the oldest brother's house, a messenger came to Job and said, "The oxen were plowing and the donkeys grazing nearby when the Sabaeans attacked and made off with them. They put the servants to the sword, and I am the only one who escaped to tell you." While he was still speaking, another messenger came and said, "The fire of God fell from the heavens and burned up the sheep and the servants, and I am the only one who escaped to tell you." While he was still speaking, yet another messenger came and said, "The Chaldeans formed 3 raiding parties, swept down on your camels, and made off with them. They put the servants to the sword, and I am the only one who escaped to tell you." Still speaking, another messenger arrived and said, "Your sons and daughters were feasting and drinking wine at the oldest brother's house, when suddenly a mighty wind swept in from the desert, striking the four corners of the house. It collapsed on them, and they are dead. I'm the only one who escaped to tell you." These tragic events are described in the book of Job, chapter 1, verses 13 to 19. In his grief, Job tore his clothes and shaved his head, but he still praised God in prayer. Then Job arose, tore his robe, shaved his head, and fell to the ground in worship, saying, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will depart. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised." In all this, Job did not sin by charging God with wrongdoing. This response is found in the book of Job, chapter 1, verses 20 to 22. Satan appeared in heaven again, and God gave him another opportunity to test Job. This time, Job suffered from terrible skin sores. Job's wife tried to persuade him to curse God and give up, but he resisted and endured his suffering. Two intertwined plots, one celestial and one earthly, demonstrate how earthly events reflect heavenly actions, similar to the war on earth following a heavenly conflict, as seen in the book of Revelation. Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, Job's three friends, came to console him, sitting with him in silence for 7 days out of respect for his mourning. On the seventh day, Job begins to speak, initiating a dialogue where each of the four men offers poetic descriptions of their perspectives on his problems. Job curses the day of his birth, comparing life and death to light and darkness. He wishes he had never been born, that his birth had been shrouded in darkness, feeling that life only amplifies his agony. Eliphaz responds by accusing Job of being unaware of the suffering of others, despite previously consoling them. Eliphaz concludes that Job's pain must be the result of some sin he committed and advises him to seek God's favor. Bildad and Zophar agree, suggesting Job must have done wrong to provoke God's justice, and argue that he should demonstrate a more innocent behavior. Bildad even suggests that Job's children brought their deaths upon themselves. Worse, Zophar implies that Job's sins would merit far greater suffering than what he has endured. Job reacts to these comments with frustration, calling his friends worthless physicians who mask their help with lies. As described in Job 13 verses 1 to 4, "My eyes have seen all this. My ears have heard and understood it. What you know, I also know. I am not inferior to you. But I desire to speak to the Almighty and to argue my case with God. You, however, smear me with lies. You are worthless physicians, all of you." Job questions why God judges people based on their actions when he could easily correct or forgive them. He is bewildered by how a human being could ever satisfy God's justice, given that God's ways are beyond human comprehension. Moreover, humans cannot persuade God with their words, as God cannot be deceived. Job admits he does not even know himself well enough to defend his case before God. He longs for someone to mediate between him and God, so that he would not be condemned to Sheol, the underworld. Job expresses faith that a witness or redeemer in heaven will testify to his integrity, as he states in Job 19, verse 25. "I know that my Redeemer lives, and that in the end he will stand on the earth." And in Job 16, verse 19, "Even now my witness is in heaven, my advocate is on high." Job's suffering becomes unbearable, leaving him bitter, anxious, and fearful. He laments the injustice of God, allowing wicked people to prosper, while he and many other righteous individuals suffer. Job wishes to confront God in protest, but cannot physically find him. He believes wisdom is hidden from humanity, but resolves to pursue it by fearing God and shunning evil. Eventually, God intervenes in the dialogue. During the first round of speeches, Job calls upon God 36 times to speak to him. Now his request is granted. Both times God speaks to Job, it happens amid a storm. There is an element of humor in how God addresses him. God reminds Job that he is the creator of all things. He describes his majestic work of creating and sustaining the world, asking Job if he can match it. God ends by questioning whether Job is in any position to judge him, saying it is presumptuous for Job to demand explanations from God. Job is made to feel very small and eventually responds, "I am unworthy. How can I reply to you? I put my hand over my mouth. I spoke once, but I have no answer. Twice, but I will say no more." In the second round, God speaks not of himself as creator, but of two of his creatures. This time, God humorously challenges Job's thoughts on the behemoth, likely a hippopotamus, and the leviathan, a crocodile or sea monster, as if these formidable beasts held the answers to life's great problems. Job is reminded that he cannot comprehend God, much less the animal world, let alone the moral universe. The main point God makes is, "Why do you argue with me?" Job responds, acknowledging that God is omniscient and that none of his plans can be thwarted. He now realizes his questioning of God was utterly inappropriate, and he despises himself and repents in dust and ashes. Though Job's encounter with God is humbling, his central issue is resolved as he reconnects with God. The dialogue provides a magnificent and unexpected climax to the book. In the epilogue, the text shifts from poetry to prose. When Job accepts that he should not blame God, God restores his fortunes. He is given 7 sons, 3 daughters, property, camels, and flocks of sheep, making him wealthier and happier than before. As God's servant, Job is vindicated. However, Job's 3 friends are severely rebuked by God for misrepresenting Job's plight, emphasizing that their words should not be cited as truth. Notably, in God's 2 speeches to Job, he never answers Job's questions or reveals his wager with Satan. Job did not need to know what happened in heaven because God had his reasons for allowing his suffering. It is crucial to note a significant difference between the Jewish understanding of this book and the Christian one. For the Jews of the Old Testament, the temporal problems of life were not seen in the light of eternity. They believed God's justice should be evident in this life, since both the righteous and the wicked shared the same fate. Sheol, a place of shadowy existence where broken spirits dwelled. Christians, on the other hand, have a vastly different perspective on suffering. With a view of heaven illuminated by Christ's work, they believe present suffering pales in comparison to the eternal life awaiting them in heaven. Consequently, hints of an afterlife are sparse in the book of Job. In one moment, Job declares he will see God after his death, but this is not a recurring theme in the book, and Job has no clear understanding of how this would happen. The book of Job contains 2 main plots, the divine and the earthly. It begins with the heavenly plot, God's meeting in heaven with Satan. Satan, an angel whose role was to report sins, served as God's prosecuting attorney, traveling the earth to report on human behavior. By Job's time, Satan had grown so cynical that he no longer believed anyone could love God for who he is. Satan argued that people only loved God for his blessings, leading to a debate between God and Satan that set the stage for the trials Job endured. God asked Satan about Job. God asked Satan if he has encountered Job during his travels across the earth. Job loves me for who I am, not because of any blessing he has received, states God. Satan's response is cynical, arguing that if God were to take away Job's blessings, Job would curse him like anyone else. As a result, the divine wager takes place. Attention is essential in any great drama. Job is unaware of the divine wager, while the reader is privy to it. This paradox is crucial. Knowing the context renders the story powerful. If Job were aware, the encounter would lose its dramatic tension. This teaches valuable truths about Satan. First, it suggests that Satan cannot be in 2 places at the same time, as he lacks God's omnipresence. The human plot. The debate between Job and his companions occupies most of the book. The central question is why Job is suffering more than others. Two perspectives emerge. A. Job's friends are convinced his suffering is due to sin. B. Job is certain he is innocent and protests his righteousness. The exchange is filled with suspense because the reader knows Job is correct. The dual structure of the book reminds us that no one knows the full picture when it comes to understanding why people suffer. Defending oneself while in extreme misery must be a monumental challenge. Beyond seeking explanations, all are confronted with a greater question. Can one continue to believe in a good God when everything seems to be falling apart? The book of Job offers a response to this profound question. What was Job's greatest pain? This clarifies the significance of this topic. Physical confrontation. Job was covered with sores from head to toe, exhausted, and in excruciating pain. Social isolation. Due to his physical appearance and the fact that the local community knew about his recent tragedies, Job became a social outcast. People avoided him, crossing the street instead of engaging with him, leaving him alone on an ash heap at the village's edge. Even teenagers mocked him. Mental anguish. Job suffered mentally, not understanding why these distressing events were happening to him, especially as nothing in his past pointed to any reason for them. Spiritual distress. Job's spiritual anguish was far worse. He felt estranged from God. He cried out, pleading for God to locate him, speak with him, and even argue with him. This was the most excruciating pain, feeling that God was distant and uninterested. Yet, when Job finally spoke with God, events did not unfold as he had expected. A Christian perspective on the book of Job. For Christians, the book of Job can be seen in the context of the New Testament. 1. God permitted Satan to cause the death of Jesus on the cross. Even Jesus, God's Son, asked, "My God, why?" Similarly to Job, God did not explain why, suggesting that even the Son of God momentarily lost sight of the purpose behind his suffering under the torment of the crucifixion. 2. Christians understand life continues beyond death. Earthly suffering need not be resolved in this life. In the Greek version of the book of Job, an additional verse states that Job will rise again with those whom the Lord resurrects. This hope of resurrection reminds us of Job's ultimate vindication. 3. A day of judgment will come. Christians believe Jesus will return to judge the living and the dead. On that day, all who have ever lived will stand before his throne to be judged according to their deeds. Then, everything Job longed for will finally come to fruition. God's justice will be applied to all humanity in a public display of divine righteousness. A journey of faith, suffering, and redemption. We have just explored the depths of Job's story. A journey of faith, suffering, and redemption that touches the soul and challenges our understanding. If you felt inspired, intrigued, or even questioned your beliefs, know there is much more to uncover. Each story shared here offers a new opportunity to reflect on ourselves and the world around us. Don't miss out on these fascinating explorations. Subscribe now, like this video if you connected with today's story, and share in the comments how it impacted you. And don't forget to share this video with someone who, like you, loves unraveling life's mysteries and exploring faith. Together, let's continue this journey of discovery and inspiration. Take your journey further. As we close another chapter, some questions might still resonate in your mind. You may wonder how to navigate life's spiritual complexities and unlock a path of abundance and blessings. The journey is challenging, but you don't have to walk it alone. In the comments, you'll find a powerful key. The ebook Discover Prosperity with God, the ultimate guide to overcoming spiritual challenges and living an abundant life. This is not just a book. It is the result of years of research, experiences, and profound revelations now within your reach. Imagine overcoming the barriers holding back your spiritual and financial growth. Picture the comfort and security of living a life aligned with the promises of prosperity meant for you. This ebook is more than words on a page. It is a treasure map to the life you deserve. Be among the many already walking a path illuminated by faith and knowledge. The power to transform your life is just a click away. Check it out in the comments and begin your journey toward a life of fulfillment and prosperity. Remember, prosperity with God is not just a distant dream. It's a promise waiting to be fulfilled. And with this guide, you are one step closer to making it a reality. Your success story begins today.